Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We're going to tackle a really important topic today, AI and how it's impacting equity in the global workforce.
Yeah, it's a huge issue, especially right now with the whole talent scarcity thing.
It really is. And to help us sort through it all, we're going to be looking at this. I mean, this is a massive report from Randstad.
Yeah.
They're the global staffing powerhouse, right?
Hmm.
So they surveyed over 12,000 people, and then they crunched data from 3 million job profiles.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot to give us a snapshot of what's going on right now. So whether you're you know, maybe you're prepping for like a big meeting at work about how AI is going to impact your company,
Uh-huh.
or you're just, curious about this whole tech wave and how it's going to change the job market.
Yeah,
Buckle up because this deep dive is for you.
this is going to be an interesting one.
We're going to uncover some really, really fascinating and I think, frankly, some pretty shocking stats about who's using AI right now, who's getting left behind, and what it all means for the future of work.
What strikes me is how this isn't something way off in the future, like science fiction.
Right.
This is happening now, and it's affecting all of us, like everyone, from, people looking for jobs all the way up to CEOs.
And that's exactly where this report starts.
Yeah.
It talks about this global AI boom,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds really exciting, right?
Isn't the surface?
On the surface, but it's also creating some pretty serious, well, equity gaps.
Mm-hmm.
And that stat that they lead with about the five-fold growth in AI jobs in just 1 year,
Yeah, it's crazy.
it's nuts. So I'm curious from your perspective, what are the implications of this for, just your average worker out there?
Well, I mean, first of all, think about it. Almost 40% of global jobs are already being impacted by AI in some way.
Hmm.
That's massive. And as you might expect, the demand for people with AI skills, it's just exploding.
Right.
Problem is access to the training you need to, develop those skills, it's not keeping up at all.
So it's almost like we're building this like super highway to the future,
Hmm.
but we're only paving like one lane.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And we're not just talking about like a shortage of, software engineers or whatever. When we say AI skills, we're talking about a whole bunch of things. Data analysis, understanding how these AI systems actually work, even being able to communicate effectively about AI, all of that.
Right.
And this report really pushes the idea that we need to make sure that everyone has a fair chance to build these skills, no matter their background, no matter what their job is right now.
Absolutely. And it's not even just about learning the skills, it's also about who's actually using AI at work right now.
Right.
And the report found some pretty big differences globally, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, me too.
So, for example, Brazil and India are leading the pack here. They're using AI like crazy, like 69%.
Wow.
But then on the other hand, you've got Japan way behind, only 19%.
Yeah.
Why do you think we're seeing these variations?
I mean, I think it's probably a bunch of factors like government policies, how much they're investing in tech, infrastructure, and even cultural attitudes towards AI.
And speaking of those differences, those disparities, let's talk about one of the biggest ones that the report highlighted, the gender gap in AI.
Ugh.
They found that 71% of men say they have AI skills compared to only 29% of women.
That's a huge gap.
That is a massive, massive chasm. So what do you think is causing this gap in the first place?
That's a really complex question, no easy answers, but some of the things that could be playing a role are historical biases, especially in those STEM fields like science and technology,
Mm.
lack of female role models in AI. And this is a tough one, even unconscious bias in hiring, like who gets hired, who gets promoted within tech.
Right.
The consequences of this gap are pretty big.
Yeah.
I mean, we risk creating a future where only men are really benefiting from AI, and that just makes all the existing inequalities even worse.
It's almost like we're taking this bias and we're baking it into the very systems that are supposed to be like perfectly objective,
Right.
which is a really scary thought.
Yeah.
And it makes the report's call for employers to step up and provide more equitable AI training opportunities that much more urgent.
Totally agree.
We cannot have women being shut out of this field that's growing so fast.
Yeah.
And it's not just about being fair, it's also a massive missed opportunity for the economy.
Yeah.
Like, remember that estimate from the World Bank about a $172 trillion gender dividend?
Yeah, that we could unlock.
If we close the economic gender gap, Well, a huge part of that is making sure that women have equal access to these AI skills and opportunities.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it makes you wonder why that gap is there in the first place.
Exactly.
What's actually stopping women from getting into AI and being successful there?
Yeah.
What needs to change?
It's not just about the training, is it?
No, it's a great question. It shows how complex this really is. It's not just about providing training, it's about taking down those systemic barriers that might even be stopping women from even thinking about a career in AI. Think about early education, societal expectations, even unconscious bias in hiring.
Yeah.
We have to look at all that stuff if we want to really close this gap.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit here.
Mhm.
Let's talk about how different generations are viewing AI and experiencing AI,
Mhm.
because the report found some pretty big differences.
Yeah.
What, from your point of view, I mean, what are the most significant generational divides when it comes to AI in the workplace?
Well, first of all, we see that older workers, they're less likely to have access to AI opportunities, which makes sense. I mean, they might not have had the same kind of exposure to these technologies in school or in their early careers.
Right.
But what's interesting is that they're less worried about AI, like replacing their jobs,
Hmm.
probably because they're getting closer to retirement anyway.
Yeah.
But they're also less optimistic about AI making their jobs easier. In contrast, Gen Z, they're much more hopeful about how AI can make their work lives better. I mean, they've grown up with tech all around them, so AI probably just feels like another tool.
Yes.
This doesn't seem scary or weird to them.
They're digital natives. It's like they've been speaking the language of AI their whole lives.
Exactly.
And speaking of people with those AI skills, remember that stat about job mobility?
Oh, yeah.
Young people with these skills, they had a 33% job change rate last year. So they're clearly in demand.
Oh, yeah. They know their worth.
They know what they're worth. Exactly.
They're not afraid to switch jobs to get a better opportunity, which means that companies, they really need to step up their game
Yeah.
to attract and keep this young talent that knows AI.
It's a seller's market.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about gender, we've talked about generations. Let's dive into a topic that I think gets overlooked a lot in these conversations: AI and disability.
Hmm.
Honestly, I was surprised by some of the stuff in the report in this area.
Hmm.
It seems like a lot of the assumptions we make about how people with disabilities view AI are just wrong.
Yeah, this is where things get a little more positive. So the report found that people with disabilities are actually more optimistic about AI than people without disabilities.
Mhm.
It seems like they see AI as a way to be more included.
Yeah.
And it's not just wishful thinking.
Right.
We're already seeing real-world examples of AI making a difference here.
Like those voice command applications, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're already changing the game for people with mobility impairments,
Mm.
giving them a level of independence and control that they didn't have before.
Yeah, it's huge.
And the report points out how people with disabilities are more likely to use AI to solve problems at work.
Hmm.
They're not just like passively using this tech, they're actively innovating with it,
Yeah.
pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah.
So it challenges this idea that AI is only for like tech geniuses,
Right.
or that people with disabilities aren't as tech savvy.
Totally. And it shows how important it is to design AI systems that everyone can use no matter their abilities.
Right.
But there is a word of caution here. The report says employers need to make sure they're offering good AI training opportunities for their employees with disabilities.
Right.
Otherwise, they risk losing those employees to companies that are, a bit more forward-thinking.
Yeah.
It's about making a workplace where everyone feels comfortable using AI to their advantage.
So it's not enough to just have the technology. You have to make sure everyone has the skills and the support to actually use it.
Exactly.
And it sounds like the Randstad report has some pretty concrete advice on how to do this. They have these 4 key steps for organizations to close the AI equity gap.
Yeah, those are really interesting. And I think they offer a really useful, roadmap for companies,
Yeah.
to figure out how to navigate this whole new world in a way that's responsible and actually benefits everyone.
Okay, so in the next part of this deep dive, we're going to break down those 4 key steps in detail.
Sounds good?
Stay tuned.
So those recommendations, huh? The report really stresses that companies need to, ditch the old ways of training people. Those old school model.
Right.
It's a whole new world out there. Things are moving so fast.
It's like trying to land a rocket on Mars with a slide ruler.
Exactly. You need those rapid skilling opportunities, like the report said.
Okay, so give me an example. In a real company, what would that look like?
Think about a manufacturing company, right? They're putting in AI robots on the factory floor. Instead of sending their employees off to some long training program, they could have them learn on the job.
Right.
Get them working right away with the robots, have experienced mentors helping them out.
Yeah.
Maybe even, that's a great analogy. You need that manual. Organizations have to give their employees the knowledge and the critical thinking skills to use AI responsibly. That means talking openly about potential risks,
Right.
like bias in algorithms and setting clear rules for how AI can and can't be used.
It's like, yeah, making sure people aren't just clicking buttons without knowing what might happen.
Exactly.
And speaking of understanding, the report also talked about involving employees when companies are putting AI into place. Why is that so important?
It's about trust.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just force AI on people.
Right.
They need to feel like they're part of the process, that their opinions matter,
Yeah.
that they have a say in how AI is used. Think about it. You're a customer service rep, and suddenly your company brings in an AI chatbot to answer basic questions.
Right.
What if instead of feeling threatened, you actually helped train that chatbot?
Yeah.
You helped make sure it's giving good information. You'd probably feel a lot better about it.
Totally. It's like, hey, I helped build that. Instead of, oh, great, a robot's coming for my job.
Exactly. And that leads us to the next recommendation, which is about personalized approaches to using AI.
Okay, what's the thinking there?
Well, it recognizes that not everyone's starting from the same place.
Right.
Women might need different types of support than older workers. People with disabilities might need training programs that are designed just for them. It's about understanding those differences and making learning more inclusive.
It's like having personalized learning playlists for AI, right? Tailored to your level and your goals.
Exactly.
Okay, the last recommendation is a big one, collaboration. The report's really pushing for businesses, schools, and society to work together. What would that actually look like?
Okay, picture this. Companies team up with universities to create AI training programs that anyone can join, new grads, people changing careers, everyone. Or imagine government programs that teach digital literacy and AI in schools, even for young kids.
Like it.
It's about making sure we have a pipeline of AI talent that reflects our society, Everyone's included.
We need to break down those walls, right?
Mm.
Stop thinking us versus them and start working together to build a future where everyone has a chance to be part of this AI revolution. We talked a lot about what organizations can do, but what about individuals? What can you do to make sure AI is used responsibly and inclusively where you work or in your field?
That's a fantastic question, and I think it's one we should all be asking ourselves. I think the most important thing is to stay curious. Read articles, listen to podcasts like this one, go to webinars, talk to people who work with AI. The more you learn, the better you'll be able to handle these changes.
It's like learning a new language, right? The language of AI. And just like with any language, the more you use it, the better you get at it.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment. There are tons of free AI tools online. Play with them. See what they can do, and start thinking about how you could use them at work, or even in your daily life. You'll be amazed how quickly you go from feeling intimidated by AI to feeling like it can actually help you.
It's not just about the theory. It's about getting your hands dirty, trying things out. Just like anything else, the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll be. But it's not just about playing around, right? We need to think critically about this technology.
Absolutely. Don't just believe everything you hear about AI. Ask questions. Look for biases. Think about the ethical implications. Remember, AI is a tool. It's up to us humans to decide how we use it.
So we're learning the language, we're messing around with the tools, but we're also, keeping our eyes open.
Right. Exactly.
Thinking critically. What happens when you see something at work, or just like in the world of AI, that feels wrong? What can you, just one person, do to change things?
That's when you have to speak up. If you see something that seems unfair or biased or just messed up, don't be quiet. Say something. Challenge the way things are, push for things to be more inclusive, and look for solutions that help everyone, not just a few people. Remember, AI is still pretty new.
Yeah.
We have this amazing chance to shape the future of work with this tech, but it's going to take all of us being involved and informed.
It's like we're all architects, right? We're designing this future together.
Yeah.
And we got to make sure it's a future we want to live in. One where AI helps everyone, not just a select few.
Exactly. And that brings us back to what we've been talking about all along. equity. It's not just about making sure everyone can use AI, it's about making sure everyone benefits from it.
Right.
That AI is used to make the world a fairer place,
Right.
not just make the problems we already have even worse.
So it's not just about the tech itself. It's about the values we build into it, the choices we make about how it's developed and used,
Yeah.
and even just having these conversations about how it affects our lives and our society.
Absolutely. It's about using our own intelligence, our human intelligence, to guide how AI develops, to make sure it serves all of humanity,
Right.
not just a few.
We started this deep dive talking about this AI equity earthquake. Sounds like we actually have the power to change things, to build a future where AI helps everyone.
Yeah, we really do. And that's a future worth fighting for.
Well, on that note of optimism and possibility, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hopefully you're leaving with, a better understanding of how AI and equity are all tangled up together.
It's complicated.
It is complicated, yeah. And maybe some things to think about in terms of your own role in shaping a future where AI is used fairly.
It's up to all of us.
It is up to all of us. And remember, this conversation doesn't end here.
Yeah?
Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep pushing for a better future. Until next time, happy diving.
Happy diving!